Hello, and thank you for joining with me and watching this short video. I'm Andy, and I'm from Ballymoney Baptist Church, and I just want to give you once again a little taster of one of the stories contained in this book called Real Lives, which is written by Dorothy Carswell and is published by 10 of those, and it's free. If you'd like a copy, then please get in touch with us. There'll be details at the end of the video. Now, I'm sure it's true for some of you that you really like to run a lot. I never did. I never liked running, either as a child or even as a grown-up. I was never really into running, found it to be too hard. But this week's story is about an athlete, someone who is very good at running and also very good at jumping. And he goes by the name of Barrington Williams. Some of you may recognize that name, those of you who are a little older, maybe in my generation. He was one of the top athletes in Team GB during the 1980s and the 1990s, and he was so good that he actually competed at the Seoul Olympics. So you may remember him from way back then. But his story actually begins in sunny Jamaica. He was born there in the 1950s, and for the first 8 years of his life, he was raised by his grandmother because his parents, very soon after his birth, they left for the UK to go and live and work there and make some money. But after 8 years, when he was a young boy, they called for him to be reunited again with his family in the UK. And so he had to leave his grandmother. And he talks about that being one of the saddest times actually in his life, because he never saw her again. She died a few years later. So he goes to the UK. He found it to be very different in terms of climate, in terms of culture, and so on. And he found life there quite difficult as he was growing up. He never really felt as though he fitted into his family. He felt quite isolated. And also because he came from Jamaica, he suffered a lot of racism as he grew up in school and in college. And this caused a lot of problems for him. He would very often get into fights, lots of fights. And after one of those fights, a particularly serious one, someone put a gun to his head. And he talks about being really scared. Well, you would be yourself, wouldn't you? It had a great impact upon him. And so he shared his experience with his sister, and her advice to him was, go to church. And he did. He started to go to church on a regular basis. And on one particular Sunday when he was in church, there was a man from Yorkshire, came along to bring the lesson from the Bible that particular day. And his subject was the love of God, as so wonderfully seen in the sending of his son, Jesus Christ, into the world to die for our sins. And he was captivated by this particular subject because, of course, he had never really experienced a great deal of love in his family life. And so he really wanted to be loved, especially loved by God. And he really wanted one day to go to heaven. And so at that point in his life, he believed in Jesus Christ, and he found forgiveness and love, he says, and hope and security. Now, one of the things that he discovered when he came to the United Kingdom was, of course, that it was the land of football. And he loved football when he was growing up. And he really wanted to do something with football in his life. He would love to have been a professional footballer, but he was told that he was just too small. He was one of those kids who was one of the late ones in terms of growing up physically. Everybody else always seemed to be bigger and stronger than him. But eventually, of course, he did grow up to be the same size as everyone else. And at that particular time in his life, he discovered an athletic club in the city of Sheffield, England. And he joined that club. And all of a sudden, he discovered his God-given abilities to run really fast and also to jump a long distance. And it wasn't too long before he became the best in the land and one of the best in the world. Eventually, of course, going to the Olympics in the city of Seoul. And in a sense, I think he proves, does he not, to those who are skeptical about the Christian life and what it must feel like and look like, he proves that it doesn't have to be boring at all, does it? And at the end of his career, he made a couple of very interesting comments that I'd like to leave with you as I close. He said, first of all, it is important to be fit, physically fit, but more important to be fit for heaven. And only Christ can do that for us. As for the colour of my skin, I believe that God is not interested in the colour of a person's skin, but rather what goes on inside the heart. And so here's the challenge as I close. When God looks beyond the colour of your skin, whatever that may be, and into the deep recesses of your heart, what does he see?